Hey guys, just came in from being outside. I was raking leaves, and it made me think of team management and project management and security overall, operations and just plain old security within applications and any service overall. Um, like like if you go out and I went out and raked my backyard a minute ago, right? And actually didn't rake it. I raked part of it, and then I have this little vacuum machine. I just run it over because I have so many trees in the yard. So I'm sitting there, vacuuming them up, and you have to make a conscious effort to leave some leaves behind because you know that, especially on a night like tonight where there's still a bunch of leaves up in the tree, that I'll wake up in the morning and it won't look like I did anything today. But I did those little steps to move in the right direction to make my life easier later by getting a little bit of leaves up now. I know I won't have to do the bulk of it later because I've already done some of it now. And it really is like that within project management too. You and your team should be sitting out down and thinking to yourselves, what can I do now in a small chunk to put me in a better place later, by doing these small steps versus trying to take off too big of a bite, right? I see that a lot where folks will go into a project and they get overzealous and they think they can do more than they can in the time frame they're given. So you run into two obstacles there, right? Nobody ever has enough time. That's one. And two, especially with your workforce, if you're not setting realistic expectations for a specific time frame or deadline, they could burn themselves out. A lot of folks don't think about these things. They go in, you got the young gun or the rock star that wants to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and he might be fine for a week or two, but or he or she might be fine for a week or two, and that's going to catch up to him in the long run, right? So, it's just like what they talk about in agile world, with sprints. That's why they're called sprints. There's short bursts with a dedicated goal or task involved, and then you take a little break, which is like, your planning session, your review, and your retro, depending on how your team's doing it. And then you move into the next sprint with a specific objective so you can reach that goal fairly quickly in your time box and move on to the next thing in the next sprint. And hopefully somebody's sitting there and putting the pieces down to where you're trying to move in the future so they can adjust based on what they're saying. Like, there's a very dynamic roadmaps when it comes to some of our software development projects I'm working on, where you have certain expectations about where you want to reach with a deadline, and or on your roadmap you have a milestone there, but you also have to be very aware of your workforce and what's going on in their normal life, right? You could have somebody on your team that somebody in their family might have died, right? I wouldn't expect anybody to continue working when something like that's that major in their life has happened to them, that they're trying to grieve and recover from. Also is like natural disasters. We have a member of our team down in Florida, and his house got wiped out by the hurricane. So from a management point of view, you got to take all these things into account. He's not going to be a super productive member of the team depending on who he is, because I've seen the other side where something like that happens, and then they want to use that as fuel for doing work to get their mind off of what is going on in their other life away from work. Um, so it's, you always got to keep an eye on that roadmap and what's happening in your coworkers' lives, and the team resources. That's a big part because we all have high expectations when we go in. People say that developers are not very good at estimating, but I would just carry that over to pretty much everyone isn't very good at estimating. You can go to a security expert and say, hey, I need you to do a pen test against this number of resources within this time frame, and you have a major roadblock or impediment that jumps up in the middle of the project. No one's 100% going to meet all their deadlines all the time without other factors coming into it. So it just made me think of that. I'm out there raking leaves, doing my thing, and you just take one rake at a time and get that little small amount of leaves up and have that accomplishment, and then know that there's going to be another set of leaves that comes down over the next few days or next few weeks that you're going to have to start all over again. But you have to remember that little increment that you were doing each time is helping along the way. So even with the bigger tasks later, you've taken the necessary steps to make them not so big in the long run.